He was a titan of industry, a man who had everything, billions, power, and a beautiful wife about to give him his first child. She was his perfect partner, standing by him as he built his empire. But in the sterile, unforgiving light of the delivery room, a single catastrophic mistake was about to detonate a bomb of betrayal. He brought her his mistress. What a sharp-eyed nurse uttered next wasn't just a medical observation, it was a verdict that would leave everyone in that room, and an entire dynasty, utterly frozen. Get ready, because this isn't just a story of infidelity. It's a saga of lies, ambition, and a truth so explosive it will make your jaw drop. The penthouse apartment atop Sterling Tower was a monument to Damien Sterling's ambition. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a god's-eye view of the sprawling metropolis below, each glittering light a testament to his conquests in the cutthroat world of international finance. His wife, Eliza Sterling, was the perfect complement to his steely persona, with her old-money grace, philanthropic endeavors, and serene beauty. She was the velvet glove on his iron fist. Their life, meticulously curated for magazine spreads and society pages, was an enviable tapestry of galas, exotic vacations, and whispered reverence. Tonight, however, the opulence felt suffocating to Eliza. Her due date had been a week ago, and every twinge, every Braxton Hicks contraction, sent a jolt of anxious anticipation through her. Damien, for all his global power, was surprisingly flustered by the impending arrival of their first child. He'd been pacing their vast living room, barking orders into his phone about a hostile takeover in Singapore 1 minute, then hovering over Eliza, asking if she needed more water or fewer cushions the next. "Darling, please," Eliza had said, managing a weak smile. "The baby will come when it's ready. All this nervous energy isn't helping anyone." Damien ran a hand through his perfectly styled dark hair, his usually commanding blue eyes clouded with a rare uncertainty. I know. It's just a lot. The merger, the new product launch for Sterling Innovations, and now this. It's all happening at once." Eliza's smile faltered. He made the birth of their child sound like another item on his overwhelming agenda. She pushed the thought away. He was stressed. He'd be a wonderful father once the baby was actually here. He had to be. The first real contraction hit her like a rogue wave, stealing her breath and arching her back. "Damien," she gasped. "It's time. Call Dr. Alastair. Get the bag." Panic flashed across Damien's face, quickly masked by his usual take-charge demeanor. He made the calls, his voice crisp and authoritative, a stark contrast to the trembling in his hands as he helped Eliza to the private elevator that descended to their waiting limousine. Their destination was the Serafina Women's Hospital and Birthing Center, an exclusive, state-of-the-art facility renowned for its discretion and luxury, a place where the city's elite came to welcome their heirs. Eliza had personally overseen the selection, right down to the thread count of the fret linens in the birthing suite. The ride was a blur of pain and Damien's attempts at reassurance, which sounded more like business negotiations. "Everything is under control, Eliza. The best suite, the best doctor, I've insured it." As they swept into the private entrance of the Serafina, a phalanx of discreet staff materialized. Eliza was quickly settled into birthing suite Omega, a room that looked more like a five-star hotel suite than a hospital room, with soft lighting, abstract art, and a private adjoining lounge for Damien. Dr. Alastair, a man whose calm demeanor had soothed generations of nervous mothers, confirmed Eliza was in active labor. "It might be a while yet, Mrs. Sterling. Try to relax," he said kindly. "Mr. Sterling, you can wait here or in the lounge." Damien kissed Eliza's forehead. "I'll just make a few urgent calls, my love. Keep things running. I'll be right here for you." He squeezed her hand, perhaps a little too tightly, and retreated to the lounge, his phone already pressed to his ear. Eliza breathed deeply, trying to focus on the techniques from her hypnobirthing classes. Hours passed. The contractions intensified, each one a monumental effort. Nurses came and went, their voices soft, their movements efficient. She called for Damien a few times, and he'd appear, looking harried, offer a few words of encouragement, and then excuse himself again, murmuring about critical updates. Then, as the pain reached a crescendo and Dr. Alastair announced it was almost time to push, the door to the birthing suite opened. Eliza, through a haze of agony and exhaustion, expected to see Damien's anxious, supportive face. Instead, a woman stood silhouetted against the hallway light. A woman Eliza knew, but not in this context. Not here. Not now. It was Isabella Rossi. Isabella, with her fiery red hair, a figure-hugging designer dress that seemed wildly inappropriate for a hospital, and the scent of expensive, heady perfume Chanel No. 5, Eliza registered with a sickening lurch that always seemed to cling to her. Isabella, the ambitious young VP from Sterling Innovations' European division, a woman whose name had been whispered a little too often in conjunction with Damien's during his extended business trips. Damien rushed in behind her, his face a mask of utter shock and dawning horror. Eliza, there's been a mistake. A terrible mistake. Isabella looked just as bewildered, her eyes wide as she took in the scene, Eliza, sweaty and exposed in the throes of childbirth. Damien, what is going on? You said it was an emergency, a private medical matter for you. Her voice trailed off, confusion warring with a nascent understanding. Eliza stared, her mind struggling to process the impossible. The pain of the contraction was nothing compared to the icy blade of betrayal that pierced through her. Her husband. His mistress. In her delivery room. Get her out, Eliza finally screamed, the sound raw and animalistic, tearing from her throat. The birthing suite, moments before a sanctuary of impending joy, had become a theater of acute, surreal horror. Dr. Alastair, ever the professional but visibly startled, stepped forward. Mr. Sterling, perhaps it would be best if your associate waited outside. Damien looked from Eliza's contorted face, a mask of pain and fury, to Isabella's stunned, pale countenance, and then back again. He was a man drowning, his carefully constructed world imploding. Isabella, please, just wait in the lounge. I can explain. This wasn't I didn't mean. You didn't mean. Eliza shrieked, another contraction gripping her. You didn't mean to bring your whore to the birth of our child. The word, ugly and sharp, hung in the air, making even the seasoned nurses flinch. Isabella recoiled as if struck. Whore. Damien, what is she talking about? You told me your wife was infertile, that you were separated, that the private medical matter was a consultation about your options for fatherhood. Her voice rose, laced with dawning outrage and a different kind of betrayal. Eliza's world tilted. Infertile? Separated? A maelstrom of questions and accusations swirled in her mind, but the immediate, overwhelming agony of labor pulled her back to the physical reality. Mrs. Sterling, you need to focus, Dr. Alastair said firmly, trying to regain control of the medical situation. We need to deliver this baby safely. One of the nurses, a sturdy, no-nonsense woman in her late 50s named Agnes Kowalski, with eyes that had seen too much of life's dramas unfold in delivery rooms, gently but firmly guided Isabella towards the door. Ma'am, if you please. This is not the time or place. Isabella, looking utterly lost and now deeply humiliated, allowed herself to be ushered out, but not before casting one last venomous glare at Damien. You will explain this, Damien. Every last lie. The door clicked shut, leaving a chasm of poisonous silence broken only by Eliza's ragged breathing. Damien approached the bed, his hands outstretched. Eliza, my love, I swear it was a miscommunication, a catastrophic error. I was calling my assistant, Veronica, to bring some updated files from the office. And then Isabella's number is right next to hers in my VIP contacts. I was stressed, not thinking. I just said, emergency, my office contact, get to the Serafina. And before I could clarify. His explanation was so ludicrous, so insulting in its flimsiness, that Eliza almost laughed, a hysterical sound that caught in her throat. My VIP contacts. Is that what she is, Damien? A very important prostitute? Eliza, please. That's not fair. It's complicated. Complicated, she panted, the urge to push becoming undeniable. No, Damien, it's quite simple. You're a liar and a cheat. Dr. Alastair intervened again. Mr. Sterling, your wife needs to concentrate. Perhaps you should step out for a moment, too. No. Eliza cried, a surprising surge of defiant energy coursing through her. No, he stays. He will watch. He will see what he has desecrated. Damien looked like a man condemned, his face ashen. He stood frozen by the side of the bed, a spectator to a miracle he had irrevocably tainted. The next hour was a primal struggle. Eliza, fueled by a tempest of rage, grief, and adrenaline, pushed with a ferocity that surprised everyone. She channeled every ounce of her betrayal into the physical act of bringing her child into the world. Damien stood by, silent and shaken, occasionally muttering apologies that Eliza pointedly ignored. And then, with a final, desperate cry from Eliza, the baby was born. A lusty wail filled the room, a sound of pure, untainted life amidst the wreckage of adult deceptions. It's a boy, Dr. Alastair announced, his voice warm despite the preceding chaos. A healthy, beautiful boy. He placed the crying infant onto Eliza's chest. Tears streamed down Eliza's face, mingling with sweat tears of relief, exhaustion, and a profound, shattering sorrow. She looked at her son, his tiny, perfect face, and a fierce, protective love surged through her, eclipsing even her rage at Damien. This innocent child deserved none of this. Damien leaned forward, a flicker of something hope, aween his eyes. He's perfect, Eliza. Our son. Eliza barely looked at him. She was captivated by her baby. Nurse Agnes Kowalski, who had been quietly and efficiently tending to mother and child, took the baby gently to a nearby warming station to perform the initial checks. Dr. Alastair was attending to Eliza. The room was momentarily calmer, the storm having passed, leaving behind a fragile peace. Damien moved closer to the warming station, peering at his son. He looks like you, Eliza. Your eyes, I think. Nurse Agnes continued her work, checking the baby's vitals, measuring him, weighing him. She was meticulous. After a moment, she made a small, almost imperceptible sound, a soft, Damien, desperate for any interaction, any sign of normalcy, asked, "Is everything all right, nurse?" Nurse Agnes looked up, her gaze steady and unervingly direct. She looked from the baby to Damien, and then briefly, almost sympathetically, towards Eliza, who was now watching, a knot of apprehension tightening in her chest. "Well, Mr. Sterling," Nurse Agnes began, her voice calm but carrying an undeniable weight, each word dropping into the suddenly silent room like a stone. "The baby is doing wonderfully. Strong APGAR scores. But there's something rather particular." Damien frowned. "Particular? What do you mean?" Nurse Agnes held up a small card where she'd noted the infant's details. "His blood type. It's AB negative." A pause. Dr. Alastair looked up, a slight frown creasing his brow. Eliza, though exhausted, felt a strange prickle of unease. She knew her blood type, A positive. She vaguely remembered Damien mentioning his during a medical checkup for insurance years ago. AB negative, Damien repeated, nonplussed. "Is that rare? Is it a problem?" Nurse Agnes's gaze didn't waver from Damien. "It is the rarest blood type, Mr. Sterling, and it can be a problem if a transfusion is ever needed, but that's not the particularity I was referring to." She paused, letting the silence stretch, her eyes boring into Damien. Then she delivered the line that would shatter everything that remained. "The particular thing, Mr. Sterling," Nurse Agnes stated, her voice devoid of accusation yet utterly damning, "is that with your documented O-positive blood type on file with this hospital from your pre-admission physical, and Mrs. Sterling being A positive, it is genetically impossible for you to be this child's father. The world stopped. The only sound was the gentle hum of the medical equipment and the baby's soft cooing, oblivious to the bomb that had just detonated in Suite Omega. Damien stared, his face draining of all color, leaving it a ghastly white. Eliza pushed herself up on her elbows, her heart hammering against her ribs, her disbelieving gaze fixed on the nurse, then on Damien, then on her child. Impossible. The word echoed in the cavernous silence of the delivery room. The silence that followed Nurse Agnes's pronouncement was thick enough to choke on. It stretched for an eternity, broken only by the soft, innocent gurgles of the newborn, now swaddled and oblivious in the warming station. Damien Sterling, a man accustomed to commanding boardrooms and bending markets to his will, looked utterly decimated. His mouth opened and closed silently, like a fish gasping for air. That's absurd," he finally stammered, his voice a whisper. "There must be a mistake. A mix-up in the records." "Your records?" Nurse Agnes Kowalski stood her ground, her expression unreadable but firm. "Mr. Sterling, hospital records are meticulously kept, especially for blood typing. Your pre-admission physical 2 months ago confirmed your type as O positive. We reconfirm a mother's blood type upon admission for labor. Mrs. Sterling is A positive. Basic Mendelian genetics, Mr. Sterling. An O parent and an A parent can produce offspring with A or O blood types. An AB blood type requires one parent to contribute an A allele and the other AB allele. Neither you nor Mrs. Sterling, based on these records, possess AB allele to pass on." Dr. Alastair, who had been silently observing, cleared his throat. "Agnes is correct, Damien. The genetics are quite straightforward. While extremely rare errors in lab testing can occur, they are highly improbable with modern methods." He looked at Eliza with profound sympathy. "Eliza, perhaps we can discuss this later. You need to rest." But Eliza was already pushing herself further upright, her eyes blazing with a new, terrifying understanding, fixed on Damien. The betrayal of the mistress in the delivery room was a shallow wound compared to this. This was a chasm, a fundamental lie at the very core of their marriage, their future, this child. "Damien," her voice was deceptively calm, dangerously so. "Is there something you neglected to tell me about your genetics?" He flinched. "Eliza, this is a shock to me, too. I don't understand it. The nurse must be wrong. We'll get another test. A proper paternity test." His desperation was palpable, his usual arrogance completely stripped away. "Oh, we will get a paternity test, Damien," Eliza said, her voice like chipped ice. "We most certainly will. But I think deep down, you already know what it will say, don't you?" Suddenly, the door to the suite burst open and Isabella Rossi stormed back in, her face a mask of fury. She must have been listening outside. "What in God's name is going on in here? I heard shouting about blood types. Damien, you told me Eliza couldn't conceive. You said you were desperate for a child and she was the obstacle." Damien whirled around, seeing Isabella as another nail in his coffin. "Isabella, get out. This is not your concern." "Not my concern." She laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "I've just been humiliated in front of hospital staff, accused of being a whore, and now I hear you might not even be the father of the child you supposedly sired with your infertile wife after you told me we would have children, that you were building a future for us. I think it's very much my concern." The scene was descending into pure chaos. Nurses were exchanging alarmed glances. Dr. Alastair looked like he wished the ground would swallow him whole. Eliza watched the interplay between Damien and Isabella with a chilling detachment. The pain was so immense it had almost numbed her. These two people, the architect and the instrument of her life's greatest betrayal, were now squabbling over the ruins. "Enough." Eliza's voice cut through the clamor, imbued with a strength she didn't know she possessed. All heads turned to her. She was pale, exhausted, but her eyes held a steely resolve. "Isabella, he lied to you just as he lied to me. Clearly, Damien Sterling is a man of many fictions." She paused, then turned her gaze to her husband. "Damien, I want you out of this room. Now. Eliza, please, let's talk about this. We can sort it out." "There is nothing to sort out," she stated, her voice flat. "You have brought another woman to the birth of my child. You have, it seems, fundamentally misrepresented the nature of our relationship and your ability to even be his father. What more is there to say? But the baby, our son." Damien gestured helplessly towards the warming station. "He is my son," Eliza corrected, her voice unwavering. "And until a DNA test proves otherwise, which I highly doubt it will, his mine and mine alone." "Nurse Kowalski," she said, turning to the nurse who had delivered the fateful news, "could you please ensure Mr. Sterling and Ms. Rossi leave the premises? Or at least this wing of the hospital. I require peace." Nurse Agnes, who had seen her share of drama but perhaps nothing quite on this scale of wealth and deceit, nodded curtly. "Certainly, Mrs. Sterling." She looked pointedly at Damien and Isabella. "If you would both come with me." Isabella, surprisingly, seemed to deflate. The fight went out of her, replaced by a dawning look of disgust aimed at Damien. "You pathetic excuse for a man," she muttered, then turned on her heel and walked out, not even waiting for the nurse. Damien lingered, his face a mess of conflicting emotions, disbelief, fear, and a sliver of his old manipulative charm trying to surface. "Eliza, don't do this. Think of our life, everything we've built. Our friends, our family, the company." "The company," Eliza laughed, a hollow, broken sound. "Is that what this is about now, Damien? Your image? Your precious Sterling innovations? You should have thought of that before you decided to weave this disgusting tapestry of lies." She gestured for Nurse Agnes to proceed. With a final, defeated look, Damien allowed himself to be escorted out. The door closed behind them, leaving Eliza alone in the vast, luxurious suite with her newborn son and the echoing pronouncement, "Genetically impossible." Dr. Alastair approached her cautiously. "Eliza, I am so profoundly sorry you had to go through this. We will arrange for a blood sample from the baby for DNA testing immediately, and one from you. We'll need a sample from Mr. Sterling as well, if he consents." "He'll consent," Eliza said, her voice hard. "Or I'll get a court order. He will not escape the truth of this." She looked down at the tiny, perfect being cradled in the hospital bassinet that had been wheeled beside her bed. His eyes were closed, his little chest rising and falling rhythmically. He was so innocent, so unaware of the storm that had just erupted around his arrival. A new wave of emotion washed over Eliza. Not grief this time, but a fierce, unyielding determination. She had been betrayed, humiliated, and her entire life had been revealed as a sham. But looking at her son, whom she silently decided to name Leo, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would protect him. She would uncover every lie, and she would build a new life for them, free from the poison of Damien Sterling. The gilded cage had shattered, and Eliza Sterling, for the first time in a long time, felt a flicker of something that might one day become freedom. But first, there were battles to be fought, truths to be unearthed, and a tycoon's empire of deceit to dismantle. The question, however, still lingered in the back of her mind, a terrifying whisper, if not Damien, then who? The days that followed were a whirlwind of legal strategy and quiet moments of discovery with her son, Leo. Freed from the pretense of her marriage, Eliza found a strength she never knew she possessed. The DNA test results came back, confirming the 0% probability of Damien's paternity. The truth was now a weapon, and Eliza, guided by her shrewd uncle and lawyer, Marcus Thorne, wielded it with precision. The divorce was swift and brutal. Faced with irrefutable evidence of both his paternity fraud and a trove of financial misdeeds courtesy of a vengeful Isabella Rossi who had supplied Marcus with evidence of offshore accounts and insider trading, Damien's empire began to crumble. His public image was shattered, his company's stock plummeted, and regulatory bodies launched investigations that would keep him tied up in legal battles for years. He was forced into a settlement that left Eliza and Leo more than secure, it left her in control. With Damien finally and completely excised from her life, Eliza faced the last, most difficult truth. She sought out Julian Vance, the gentle artist with whom she'd shared a brief, secret affair born of loneliness nearly 2 years prior. They met in a quiet cafe, the air thick with unspoken history. With a trembling voice, she told him everything. She watched as shock, confusion, and finally, a hesitant wonder washed over his face. "A son," he whispered, his eyes wide. "I might have a son." The subsequent DNA test was a mere formality. Julian was Leo's father. There was no easy path forward, but for the first time, the path was honest. Julian, a man whose wealth was in his heart and his talent, stepped into the role of father with a quiet, joyful reverence that healed a part of Eliza she thought was broken forever. He wasn't a titan of industry, but he was a giant of a man, present and loving in a way Damien could never comprehend. Today, years later, the penthouse atop Sterling Tower is no longer a monument to cold ambition. It is a home, filled with the sound of a child's laughter and the smell of oil paints. Sunlight streams in, illuminating not just the city below, but the vibrant, happy life Eliza has built. She runs a major philanthropic foundation, using her resources and her story to empower women who have been deceived and discarded. Julian's art career has flourished, his work imbued with the profound new love he's found. And Leo, a bright, happy boy with his father's kind eyes and his mother's indomitable spirit, is growing up surrounded by truth, integrity, and unconditional love. The Sterling dynasty ended not with a bang, but with the quiet, triumphant closing of a door on a world of lies, and the opening of a window to a future built on love. What did you think of Nurse Agnes's bombshell revelation? Could you predict the twists and turns of this story? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If this story of drama, resilience, and ultimate triumph captivated you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who loves a story of fortunes reversed. And don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell for more tales of intricate lives and astonishing revelations. You won't want to miss what we have in store.